Hello everyone, this is Daughter Darkness, and today we will be having a game retrospective of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. This is the second in the series that's releasing daily up to the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, where I'll go over a game retrospective of every Kingdom Hearts game as we go along. Now, if you haven't seen the Kingdom Hearts 1 game retrospective, I suggest you do so before watching this video, but basically what this is I'll talk about the history of a game, my own personal story with it, then a kind of mini review before rounding off talking about the legacy. And now we've got the first handheld Kingdom Hearts game, which is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. This released in November 2004 in Japan and December of the same year in North America, before releasing in May of the following year in the rest of the world, exclusively for the Game Boy Advance, before being remade for the PS2 in 2007 alongside the release of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix in Japan, and then a North American release of that the following year, and there wasn't one for us in Europe, which is okay, I guess. Fine, just don't release your games here. But it's okay, because in 1.5 we did eventually get Chain of Memories here in 2013 as part of the HD collection. That version also re-released on PS4 in 2017, so at least we got it now. So Kingdom Hearts 1 released in 2002 and it took the world by storm. It was very successful. So naturally the question came over what to do next. Now Kingdom Hearts 2 was planned. It had been planned to some extent before Kingdom Hearts 1 even released, but development began once it did. But Tetsuya Nomura wanted something in between. A game to kind of bridge the gap between 1 and 2. He knew he wanted a year gap, so he could have Sora being more mature and that kind of thing, and so the world can sort of develop a bit from the first game, but he needed something to explain how we got from where we were at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 to where we are at the start of Kingdom Hearts 2. So he decided to make a bridge game. He'd heard from particularly younger fans that they really wanted to be able to play Kingdom Hearts on the go. So he chose the Game Boy Advance as the big handheld of the time to have this game on it, and it was originally going to be called Lost Memories because the concept was that for Sora to be at level 1 in Kingdom Hearts 2, he would need to forget all of his memories of the first game and forget all of the abilities of that so that he would reset to the default level. But eventually that was changed to Chain of Memories, which I think works as a much better title. But the game was announced at TGS in 2003 alongside Kingdom Hearts 2. Development went fairly steady until its release, and obviously there were some changes that had to be made to the Kingdom Hearts formula. It couldn't work exactly the same. It was 2D rather than 3D. There were cards and the worlds, but we'll get into that a bit more in the mini review sec. But for me, Chain of Memories completely passed me by as a child. I didn't have a Game Boy Advance growing up. I had a Game Boy Color and a DS, but I missed the one in the middle. Of course, the DS did have a Game Boy Advance player on it. By that time, Chain of Memories would have been out for like 5 or 6 years. And I didn't really follow the fact that there was a third Kingdom Hearts game when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. There was another one in the middle. I remember hearing about Chain of Memories, and I also remember hearing about Kingdom Hearts 2. I guess this would have been around September 2003 when they were announced, but I just thought they were the same game. I thought it was Kingdom Hearts 2 Chain of Memories. You know, being a young child at that point, I guess that kind of stuff is fair. And I just got Kingdom Hearts 2 when it released. I assumed, well, we had Kingdom Hearts, so the sequel would be Kingdom Hearts 2. That would make sense as the next one, but of course not. And then that did lead to some confusion over stuff like seeing the journal entries of people like Marluxia and seeing that they'd apparently been defeated by Sora and his friends, and I was like, what? Did we? Did I miss something? And I did, I missed the whole game. But then, of course, Chain of Memories didn't release over here on the PS2. So I never had that opportunity to play it, so the first time I played it was in 2013 when the 1.5 collection released. I played Kingdom Hearts Final Mix first when I got 1.5, but then I came to Chain of Memories and really didn't like it to start with. I did get through the whole game, but it took me a matter of months because I was really having a hard time with the combat. It has its fans, and I can see why, but for newcomers it is quite obtrusive, particularly if it's someone who's played other Kingdom Hearts games. my natural instinct was to play it like any other Kingdom Hearts game, but you kind of need your head to be in a slightly different place to play Chain of Memories effectively, so that just made me have a really hard time liking it. When Reverse Rebirth came around, I liked it a little bit more, because I think you can be a little bit closer to how you would play a normal Kingdom Hearts game, but still I wasn't particularly a fan at the time. But then I played it another time, about a year or so later. I think 2.5 was probably out at this point, and I played Kingdom Hearts 2 and Birth by Sleep. But I liked it a lot more then. I started being a bit more strategic with the way I set up my deck and that kind of thing. So I was using slates a lot more and that sort of thing, and using jewels and dark mode and stuff a lot more effectively in Reverse Rebirth when we got around to that. And I went for a brief period of actually really liking Chain of Memories, but it was a brief period. In that period I did play the original game, which I played once, and that was in like 2016 or something, and I really enjoyed it, but I think ultimately it has the same pretty much strengths and weaknesses that the 3D version of the game has. Having said that, after that I played it again, and the tedium started to set in a bit more. And I think part of that is my own fault, because I decided that with 1.5 plus 2.5 releasing, I wanted to have the Platinum on every Kingdom Hearts game on PS3 before they were on PS4. So I got the Platinum in Chain of Memories, which is awful to get, by the way, because on PS3 you had to play the game 3 times, both stories 3 times, that is. You have to level up both characters to level 99, and Riku finishes the story at like level 30 something, so that literally just hours of fighting Heartless in Castle Oblivion kind of drove me insane and sort of soured my taste buds for the game. And now when I've played it, I have actually platinumed it again on PS4. Strangely enough, I didn't find it quite so tedious or bad. I still, didn't like doing it, but it's kind of settled into a position now where it's not my favourite Kingdom Hearts game, but it's not my least favourite either. And that takes us nicely into the mini review section. The card-based combat is the big thing that sets this apart from all the other Kingdom Hearts games, even though it does kind of bear a lot of resemblance to the command deck that was used in later games. It was certainly the inspiration or the jumping off point for that. But I've got mixed feelings towards it. It takes a lot of time to get used to, but there is as I said, a brief period, a kind of runner's high, when you slowly start to work out the effective way to play the game, until you ultimately realise that the best way to play it is to just set up your deck with a bunch of blitzes, sonic blades and lethal frames, and that if you do that you're basically going to walk over anything, even if you're on the hardest difficulty. In theory, the card value stuff should make it require a little bit more thought, but at the end of the day, if you use a slate that's got more than 9, nothing but an enemy slate could break it. And as normal enemies don't use slates, that means that they're very easy, and when bosses use it, you can just use a 0. Of course, bosses can use 0s as well, and that can be quite annoying, but it's normally just an irritant, it's not like a major problem. So the way I kind of see Chain of Memories as far as combat goes is that it's great to work it out. It's a really great feeling to work out how to play the game. But then you kind of break the game, and it just loses any replay value. It becomes a chore. And I think the world design is also a big part of that. Because it's one thing having a combat system that's kind of slow with encounters, which is odd in Kingdom Hearts, but it's another thing entirely to do that without any kind of unique world structures or anything. It's just a list of gimmick rooms basically that aren't very interesting, and you just have reskins of them in every world you go to, and it means traveling through the worlds is just not very engaging. I tend to find if I'm playing Chain of Memories, I go into a world and I see that there's this like long stretching maze of rooms, I go, oh no, why? I don't look forward to the fact that it's going to be a long time exploring, because there's no real exploration value. However, we've also got Riku's side of the story, and I think that the combat itself actually shines quite a lot more here when you're playing it later on. Of course, the game's a lot shorter, which is good, because Chain of Memories, I think it's a decent game, but it can overstay its welcome. But Reverse Rebirth doesn't. It's a lot shorter and snappier. It knows that it's not about exploration, so it's just, you know, fighting and cutscenes. Ultimately, it boils down to just waiting until the enemy plays a card and then playing one of the same value to duel it to death, or playing one of a higher value to get dark mode, and then you can basically just spam slates as you would with Sora. But I think it does add an element of kind of thinking on your feet. Like, you have to stay on your toes and keep an eye out on what the enemy's doing and then react quickly, find the right card, because obviously you don't set up the deck yourself. It still does end up fairly easy, but I think it feels like a lot more of a challenge when you're playing it having played the game before. On your first playthrough, Sora's side's a lot more obtrusive, but later on I think Riku's side feels a little bit more challenged. But I think the biggest strength of Chain of Memories is its story. We've got this plot where Organization 13 is using Naminé to influence Sora's memories to the point where he basically forgets everything that happened before coming to the castle, so he can be a memory slave to Naminé. And it leads to a point where we've got Sora, really for the only time in the series, really on edge. He's not his happy-go-lucky self, and it strains his relationship with Donald and Goofy while ultimately strengthening it. The guest characters are all great as well. I think the organization members in this game are all really fun to have, even people like Vexen, who you love to hate. The one exception is Lexaeus. Is he even a character? He's just kind of there. He sits in the corner, folds his arms, and then agrees with Zexion a few times, before going out and then dying to Riku. Apart from him though, they're all pretty fun. Naminé herself as well is a great character, and then we've got Riku. Riku is a great character throughout the whole series, but it's Chain of Memories, I think, where this whole internal struggle with his darkness is at its peak. With the ending of Road to Dawn and all that setting up the way he's going to be in future games, that was great, and Riku's side, I think, story-wise is wonderful. The character work on both sides is great. And that means that even though I find the game a little bit tedious, there is still value to play it just from enjoying this story. Which honestly, arguably, I think is possibly the best story in the series. So, Chain of Memories has its fans, of course, and I think it's earned them. It's not really to my tastes, at least as far as the game goes. I can see the value for it. It was the lowest selling Kingdom Hearts game, and didn't really receive the critical acclaim of the first game either. But it does have a legacy, both for Kingdom Hearts and outside, because Jupiter, the handheld game developer that did this, would eventually work with Square Enix again on The World Ends With You, which did receive critical acclaim and has a really dedicated fan base, and also uses a card-based combat system. Admittedly, functionally it's not really the same as Chain of Memories, but you can see the connection there. And then Rechain of Memories, even more significant for Kingdom Hearts, because it was the first game developed by the Osaka team, who of course are developing Kingdom Hearts 3 and have kind of become the main Kingdom Hearts development team. And they started with this. Of course, the command deck was inspired by this as well, so Chain of Memories had its legacy more in a meta way than anything else, because obviously the events of the game are forgotten. That's all I've got to say. So what do you think of Chain of Memories? Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below the video. And while you're down there, please like this video if you did. And if you liked it, then check out my other videos and subscribe to this channel. And as always, thank you for watching.